Now, the other part to understanding this, right, is how do you get healthy? So you want to, one, stop getting sicker so you stop damaging your body, but you also have to repair damage in order to be healthy, right? And get yourself to a level to be resilient. So I would say you don't just add nourishment, I add what we call hyper-nourishment. So hyper-nourishment is a protocol that my husband and I developed that's an intentional overdose in the nutrients your body uses for cellular repair and optimal immune function. So it's very specific. It's not like a lot of things that you'll hear where people say, I don't know, eat more plants, eat less meat, right? We're very, very specific in exactly what foods you need based off of, one, understanding the science, and two, dozen years of experience. So we created a hyper-nourishment protocol so that you don't just get healthier a little bit at a time, but you can actually reverse disease at record rates. You might have noticed that those people I showed you, they were having changes within 1 to 2 months, 6 weeks, right? That is pure hypernourishment. That's how pure hypernourishment works. But hypernourishment itself is about what you're adding to your diet. So no matter what diet you're on, you can add hypernourishment and you can slow down the effects of the negative things that have happened and improve your health. It's always a good thing. I still hypernourish myself and I've been disease-free for 16 years. And what it does is it keeps me from getting infections. It keeps me from aging. It keeps me having tons of energy. So it's always a good thing to add no matter what. So what is hypernourishment? I'm going to break down the ingredients. And again, the deeper dive would be in my classes, which again are free. First, a focus on raw vegetables. This is not something that is brought up very much. In fact, it used to be controversial when I first started saying this because people like to bring up studies that were done in petri dishes about like the breakdown of nutrients, blah, blah, blah. What I really care about is results that happen in real people. Results trump theories every single day. And what we found is when people do cooked vegetables, they don't get rapid results the way they do on the raw vegetables. So guess what is better to use? The raw vegetables, specifically cruciferous vegetables. Cruciferous vegetables, as I mentioned before, that are shown to stop the replication of COVID, also will accelerate cellular repair and optimize immune function. So whether it's disease reversal you want or just to be more resilient to infections, cruciferous vegetables are the key. Now, I normally, if I have somebody who's sick, I will put them on at least 16 ounces a day, which is a lot. For some people who have not had fiber in a while, it can take a minute. And I didn't even get into reversing Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, which works well. And yes, they need fiber. So this is a crucial ingredient. So if that's something that's missing from your diet, if the only raw vegetable you eat is a piece of kale on your burger or even your veggie burger, you've got to add this to your diet if you want to start changing your health. And I really recommend the salad becomes the meal. You know, put your beans and tofu and other things as your sides or on the salad, but don't make the salad little tiny and then eat a big giant plate of something that's not really doing much for you. Water intake. So a lot of people are extremely dehydrated, and water isn't really brought up when people talk about nutrition or in the medical world in general. You know, water is key for all the chemical reactions that take place when you need to lose fat, right, or gain muscle, but also for repair of your cells, okay? Now, dehydration is also the main cause of these three things that people spend a lot of money trying to fix. Number one, headaches. Number two, constipation. And number three is fatigue. Right? How much money do people spend on caffeine and laxatives and ibuprofen and Tylenol, right? Because they're trying to get rid of those symptoms that could be fixed if they would just get hydrated. All right. So hydration is extremely important. And for most people, about an ounce, half an ounce to an ounce per pound, up into a gallon is a good place to go. For people doing hypernourishment with me, unless they are really, really light, I start them at least 96 ounces a day. Again, that might seem like a lot, but this is hypernourishment. This is an intentional overdose in nutrition to accelerate the process. And when you get a lot of water in, you actually feel a lot better. The energy is wonderful. You get exercise, running to the bathroom. But it really does make a difference. And I've seen people before who will tell me, you know, I'm trying to do everything but the water because I don't want to drink water, and they don't get those results until they add the water. So make sure that you're doing that. Even for exercise, people who are running every day and they're not losing fat, you add the water, right? As well as adding this other key ingredient that affects your immune function, which is omega-3s. Unfortunately, the world of fats has been just really turned into mythology in a lot of ways. It's frustrating on both sides. There's people who try to promote fats that we know are unhealthy. So for example, coconut oil, that is not a healthy food. That actually will raise your cholesterol right away. In fact, I've had patients that were plant-based on coconut oil, and then their cholesterol was through the roof and got rid of it and it came back down, right? So it's a saturated fat that can cause harm. In fact, it got my money back from Costco because I bought coconut oil, which I only use on my skin, but they actually gave me money back because they got sued because it said healthy on the label, and they got sued. And so they gave the money back, they settled and gave the money back, but I wasn't eating it anyway, but they want to give me a refund. Okay. Right. So there's some people and they're saying butter is good for you. Put it in your coffee if you're from New York. Right. So this is all nonsense, right? Those are foods that are going to increase the stress on your system. But then there's the other camp that's saying all fats are bad, which is also not true. All right. So again, when you look at cellular function and the impact of nutrition on cells, the answers are there. Okay. So when you look at, for example, omega-3 fatty acids, those are essential for cellular function. And so I see a lot of folks who went on plant-based diets who were fat-free, who started having a lot of problems, or their metabolism got really slow where they're eating 800, 900 calories a day and they still can't lose weight and they are completely malnourished of their fatty acids, okay? So I'm gonna show you how that affects the immune system and how you can compare it to what I just taught you before about the fats from animal products and oils. So omega-3 fatty acids integrate into cellular membranes. And this is why it's really important. I hear people oversimplify and say, anytime you eat fat, it can make you fatter. That is a wrong deduction that any fat you eat can become body fat, but that is not true. Some fats become cells, and omega-3 fatty acids become cells. They become part of your cell membranes for your entire body, your nervous system, and your immune cells. So if you have healthy cells with a lot of omega-3 fatty acids in them, nutrients get in easily and toxins pass out easily. So think about it. If you're someone who's eating a no-fat diet and you've hit a plateau where you just can't seem to finish getting better, or if you eat one thing that's off plan, you feel sick, it's because you're having difficulty getting all the nutrients in and you still have toxins that are trapped, right? Which is what we see here. So people who don't get enough omega-3s will have rigid membranes that do not allow for proper cellular communication and receiving nutrients or releasing them. They're also essential for our nervous system. So they're the building blocks of healthy neurons in our cells. They improve memory, mood, and cognitive function. Really, really important. If you want to keep yourself sharp in the head, make sure you have omega-3 fatty acids. They're anti-aging, they protect against dementia and Alzheimer's. And I know you guys are going to get some brain lectures, so I won't dig in too deep there. But here's the part that I find to be really, really attractive is what they do for the immune system. So omega-3 fatty acids, and I'm using flax and chia seeds because they are the best source. And they're really cheap. It's like $1.29 a pound in my local store. All right. When you use those, and I use about a handful a day for healthy people, or about a half a cup a day for people who are doing my most aggressive programs. Or if you get super bloated or can't handle fiber, you can use cold pressed flax oil. A few tablespoons will do the job too. Okay. So these give you something called alpha linoleic acid. Okay. And when you have that, it's going to be broken down into the anti-inflammatory immune cells. So this is what we really want, right? We want the anti-inflammatory immune cells that are going to give us the protection to be able to fight back against the negative effects of prolonged inflammation and bring us back to baseline. And think about that. When we were like running free in nature before we became civilized and started cooking all of our foods and inventing drug-like foods or food-like drugs, we were eating just plants growing outside, right? Now, regular plants like greens, like kale, have a little bit of omega-3 in them. And if we were just eating that way, we would never have to hyper-nourish with high levels of omega-3s like chias and flax seeds. However, because we have overdosed in omega-6 from animal products and oils and all those things, we now have to fix the problem because, what we really are looking for is a healthy ratio of 6:3. And for healthy people, they found they probably have a healthy ratio of like 9:1 to 1:1. I've had people tested who have had a ratio of 200:1, 6:3. So it's important that we really push this number up and get this into people's bodies, okay? So these are the anti-inflammatory prostaglandins and leukotrienes that you're going to get from omega-3 fatty acids. And you've probably heard of EPA and DHA, which are really good for brain health as well. All right. Now, I want to show you something really cool. And this is one of the reasons why we're able to get the dramatic results we get with people. One, because we have a specific protocol, but specifically, in addition, using the omega-3s to really accelerate the process by increasing cellular communication, right? So these are the two pathways that I showed you before. Please do not feel like you have to memorize this. I just want to show you a comparison side by side of the two pathways, the omega-6 inflammatory pathway and the omega-3 anti-inflammatory pathway. They look pretty similar to each other. And in fact, the same enzyme, delta-6 desaturase, is responsible for breaking down both beginning products, okay, LA and ALA. So maybe you've heard before that people cannot effectively break down ALA from flax and chia into EPA, DHA, and all these things below. And that can be true because delta-6 desaturase actually prefers the inflammatory pathway for some reason. So if you have high amounts of vegetable oils, animal fats, processed foods, then you can take this enzyme and keep it too busy over here to do the job over here. But if you eliminate the inflammatory foods, then you're going to get that enzyme to really focus on the omega-3 pathway. Bam! And that's going to give you that hit of anti-inflammatory that you really want. And very excitingly, when you have higher levels of EPA, it actually will block the conversion of arachidonic acid into the inflammatory components. So if you look at that and say, wow, if I stop eating these things and I really start to hyper-nourish over here, I could bring inflammation down in record time. And that is why it's really important to include those omega-3s in your recovery. And you're not going to get the same benefit from like a little pill or capsule than you do from getting the higher amounts from the foods.